Today, I want to talk to you about a very important part of the action staffing business, and that involves driver helpers. A driver helper is someone that is assigned to work with a driver, delivering product, typically for food companies, could be office supplies. It might also be assisting a recycling company picking up recyclables on the street. But in all these cases, the driver helper is there to assist the driver in the daily routine. So let's break this down and begin with the first component, which involves delivering food product. And there are a lot of important components to this particular job, and there are safety hazards that I want to bring to your attention so we can help avoid them. So how does the day start? First of all, when you arrive at the client company, dress and proper dress is very, very important. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that you should be wearing regular fit pants, and depending on the weather, you be the judge of how warm you want to keep yourself because you're going to be outside and inside during the workday. So you want to have regular fitting pants so they don't get caught on anything. You want to wear a regular solid shirt without any type of printing on it. It shouldn't be oversized as well. And you want to make sure that overall you're not having a baggy fit so that when you get on the truck and off the truck, nothing can catch any place that could hurt you. That's very, very important. Footwear also a key to the process. You want to be wearing work boots so you don't slip and skid. You could be outside when it's icy or when it's raining. So again, you want to make sure your feet are properly protected and you're wearing boots so that you don't skid and hurt yourself. Sneakers is the wrong way to go for two reasons. Number one, doesn't give you the proper support and skid-proof protection that you need. It's also not a good appearance at the during the workday, so I would avoid sneakers. Stick with work boots. That's very, very good, very important. Now, also, it's what you don't wear that's very important. As we've emphasized in other videos, headphones should never be worn during the workday. You want to make sure that you're hearing everything. You want to make sure you're alert. Your cell phone should be in the off position, quiet position, so that if you go into a client company, it doesn't ring, it doesn't go off, it doesn't disrupt anything that's going on around you. It's very important that the image that you keep is one dedicated to the job without creating a lot of attention. Now, what do I mean by that? When you go into a facility to deliver the product, you're always following the lead of the driver. He is in charge, he is your supervisor. He will tell you exactly what to do, where to go, and what not to do. And never talk to other personnel at the client company unless you're directed to by the driver. Also a very important key step to the process. So as the day begins, you're going to get into the truck. What's the first thing you do when you get into the truck? Put on your seatbelt. If I tell you how many times I have to remind people to take that important, simple step, it's unbelievable. It's extremely dangerous not to be wearing your seatbelt. You're in a big truck. The truck is going to be going through city traffic. It's going to be traveling on highways. If there's ever a sudden stop, I don't want to see you end up going through a windshield. I want you to work and be safe. So please start your day buckling up for safety. And even if the truck is idling or stopped at a particular yard and it's not moving, you still keep your seatbelt on. The only time you take it off is when you're getting out of that truck. If you're in the truck, it's on all the time. In addition to wearing the clothes that I just described, it is also required for you to be wearing a safety vest. Very important part of the job to always wear your safety vest. And that should be on you at all times. Don't take it off while you're in the truck. Leave it on all times. We provide large enough safety vests that they can go over whatever you're wearing. And again, this is for your protection. Now, as you approach the first stop and the truck stops at the facility, the next thing I would like to see you do is, when it's safe to do so, you get out of the truck. And when you get out of the truck, you want to look both ways to make sure no cars are coming, no other trucks are coming. You also want to make sure you're not bumping into anything when you get out. You might be in a tight-fitting spot. And before that driver backs that truck up into a bay or next to a delivery point or possibly a door to go into a kitchen. You want to safely get out of the truck, go behind the truck, and look in the side view mirrors and direct the driver to safely back up the vehicle. You play a key role in that situation, almost like someone in an airport directing a plane into where it's going to park. And I know you've seen that plenty of times. That's the role I want you to play in this situation. That will avoid the driver hitting something or hitting someone, which is very important. Remember, you guys are teammates in this job day, in this work day. You should work together and help each other. And the partnership goes into a lot of different areas. But starting with backing a truck up safely and successfully is a key thing to think about and do every time that truck arrives at a delivery. Now, once the vehicle is safely parked, and it could be in a number of different locations, it might have backed up to a loading dock, which is the same surface as the back of your truck. It might have just parked in front of a doorway. It might have just parked in front of a set of stairs. Might be in front of a busy office building, could be on a city street, could be in a neighborhood. All different types of conditions exist. But most importantly, the most important place to start with is safety. When you're around the vehicle, outside the vehicle, you're looking all around you. Make sure that no one is in your path. Make sure if that truck is parked along a busy roadway, you're not putting yourself at risk being near any type of traffic, whether it's moving fast or slow. It is still a safety hazard. You must do everything to avoid coming into contact with any moving vehicles. Now, the delivery process begins here. And what typically will happen is the driver will come around the back of the vehicle. He or she is the person to open up the back of the truck. You are not authorized to touch any equipment whatsoever except for a hand truck or a U-boat, which is basically a platform with a handle that you pull, a little cart, if you will. So the driver opens up the back of the truck, typically two handles, or it might be one handle going up, but now all of the merchandise is exposed. And typically what happens is the hand trucks will come off the truck. If a ramp is needed, because you're not at a bay, the ramp will come out, and that's how we move product off the truck. Again, you're following the driver's lead at all points during the process. And typically, the driver will pick out the merchandise that follows the pattern of the paperwork to make a successful delivery. Now, what is your objective here? Your objective here is to assist successfully taking the right product off the truck without damaging it. And there are some very simple do's and don'ts to the process. If you see something fragile, like eggs or some type of produce that could bruise easily, handle those situations with care. Common sense tells you you don't take a case of eggs and drop it on the floor too quickly or too harshly, because you're going to damage the merchandise. If you see any type of loose items, you don't want to put them down on the dirty floor. You want to look to put them on top of something so that you're not exposing these items that are loose to any dirty conditions that might appear from the floor or any place else you might put them down. You want to exercise care. Treat that delivery like you're bringing your own groceries into your house and that you're paying for them. So again, be cautious and be careful with what you're doing. And as you're bringing things off of the truck and loading them onto a hand truck, you want to remember the basics in lifting. If you're lifting a case of cans or a case of soda bottles, you're going to have some weight here to deal with. So again, what have we always told you? Lift with your back. Make sure that you're bending down properly to support the weight. Make sure your feet are planted safely so that when you take on that weight, it doesn't cause you to fall backwards, injuring your back, or fall to the side. Very important. It's advisable to work carefully and efficiently, and yes, we want to make time and do the job as quickly as we can, but you can never rush, because when you rush, that's when accidents happen. And again, we don't want anyone getting hurt during the unloading process from the truck. Now, as that product is being loaded onto the hand truck, there are some basic do's and don'ts to how you do this. And one of the things that we want to avoid is any chance of food contamination. And what do I mean by that? Well, simply stated, if you have products on the truck that combine raw poultry, for instance, raw meat, and you were to take those products and put them on top of a case of grapes or a case of apples, there is a chance that food contamination coming from raw meat that has not been cooked yet could spread to produce, spread to items that have a thin skin and that someone might pick up and eat just the way you see it, such as an apple. Very important to keep those things separate. So what's the proper procedure? Always put your proteins, like your chicken, your meats, pork products, you always put them at the bottom of your hand truck. And then if you happen to have a case of produce, celery, lettuce, or something of that nature that's got to go into the facility, into the customer, you want to put that on top of any of the proteins, never the reverse. And believe me, if you can avoid putting them on the same hand truck, that's the best way to go. But if it's small delivery, sometimes that's not practical or possible. So again, use caution and care. And while you're doing the unloading from the truck onto the hand trucks, you want to follow the driver's direction. He or she will tell you how to approach the facility, where you're going. Now, if you're going into an elevator, that brings up a couple of concerns. Is it a freight elevator or is it a public elevator where regular passengers and staff will enter that elevator? You need to know this because you may be going into a busy elevator with a hand truck. And if you go in too fast and too deep, what's the first thing that could happen? You could ram the bottom of your hand truck, which is a slice of metal, into somebody's ankle. And I have seen this happen. And all of a sudden, somebody has a fracture on their ankle. It can happen. A hand truck has to be used carefully. And like any piece of equipment, proper procedure and training is very, very important. As you load the hand truck, never load it so high that you can't see over it, and never load it so wide that you can't see to the side of it. You also want to make sure heaviest items always go on the bottom. So if I have a case of number 10 cans, which are the big cans that we store pickles or tomatoes or sauce in, I would never want to put that on top of something that's light that could break and also could topple the hand truck. So just like building a house, you want to have a good foundation. So as the boxes are lined up in front of you, you want to pick those that load the hand truck properly and stack your hand truck like that. And again, only take the weight you're comfortable with. Rushing and loading up a hand truck only to get halfway to your destination and have the whole hand truck fall apart and tip over damages merchandise, slows down the delivery process, and really doesn't look professional if a customer or client happens to be looking at you. So again, you are out there representing yourself, you're out there representing Action Staffing, and most importantly, you're out there representing our client in front of his customer. Professionalism in everything you do is key to the process. That's why I began emphasizing looking professional, and now I'm covering acting professional. Both go hand in hand. So we covered the do's and don'ts of approaching an elevator. Let's suppose we have the other extreme. Let's suppose the only way to the kitchen, which happens to be downstairs, is through or down an exterior outside staircase that's made of cement, that's made of brick, that's made of metal, that's made of wood, could be any of these surfaces. And what do they all have in common? It's this: when they are wet or when it is cold outside, they could be slippery. And in all particular cases, you have to exercise caution and care. There is absolutely no reason to approach a staircase and run that hand truck down. It's dangerous. What you really should do on a slippery, wet, cold day is park the hand truck safely before the stairs and walk down the stairs yourself and make sure there's no slippery spots on that staircase. And checking the first couple of stairs is not going to do it for you, because somebody may have spilled something at an earlier delivery at the first couple of stairs and you're not checking them, and all of a sudden you get to that spot and guess what? Hand truck and you are now rolling down the rest of the way. And what typically is at the end of these stairs? A steel door. Not a good situation, and you're not going to have a safe landing. Trust me. So again, I want to repeat this because it's very important. When you approach a staircase, going up or going down, you check the stairs first. Now, having successfully done that, and you bring your hand truck down the stairs, and now you're entering into a kitchen, or you're entering into some type of staging area, work area, there's a lot of important rules that apply. Number one, as I told you before, your objective is to do your job, make your delivery, almost as if you're not even there. Now, what do I mean by this? Simply this. When you go into a busy kitchen, or you go into an office, or you go into a school, there's work being done by the people that are there. It is not your place to strike up conversations, to walk off your route and go talk to people, or go to participate in someone else's conversation. You stick to your job at hand, which is bring my merchandise in, find out from the driver or the manager in that facility where I am supposed to deliver that product. It might be to a set of shelves. It might be going into a cooler, which is a big walk-in refrigerator box. It might be going to a freezer, or it might be going to a combination of all the above. Now, in the process of that, you're going through a busy kitchen. You have a chef or chefs that are busy getting their food prepared. They don't have time for your conversations, and they don't have time for disruption. If you have a legitimate question, which revolves around your delivery and being able to make it, of course you have every right to ask for direction. Better to ask than to put something that belonged in the freezer on a shelf, and then we get a phone call the next day with a complaint that all of the food spoiled. No, we obviously don't want that to happen. But what is the best and safest route to take? Always go back and talk to your driver. He's in charge or she's in charge. That's the person you want to talk to for direction if you have a question. Now, if you're in the facility and you happen to realize you need to use a restroom, you just don't take it upon yourself to go wherever you want to go looking for a restroom. In today's day and age, there's security measures in every building that you're going to go into, especially if it's a school. The last thing you want to do is leave your hand truck someplace and go into the boys' room or the girls' room if appropriate. That could be a real problem. So if you have to use a facility, ask permission and then wait for direction on where to go and which one to use. There's a chance that you'll be supervised as you go walking through a facility just to go to a bathroom. And if that's the case, you follow instructions accordingly and behave professionally at all times, following the rules that I've just spoken about. Now, in the case of food and anything you see during your delivery, remember, always keep a complete hands-off policy. Even if you see a damaged piece of food or a bottle of soda that came dislodged from a six-pack, that is not grounds for you to decide, hey, you know what? It's garbage anyway, I might as well help myself. Folks, that is considered stealing. And almost all the accounts we deal with now all have surveillance, which means whether you realize it or not, you're being watched, and you're being watched as soon as that truck is parked, because most places have cameras outside the building and inside the building. So again, the simple rule is don't touch. And if there's a commissary or a cafeteria and you see food and sandwiches and all types of products being prepared and distributed, you have no right to go over and help yourself. Again, that's considered stealing. Now, there are instances where a chef or a restaurant manager will come over to you and say, by the way, are you hungry? Would you like something? It's okay for you to accept food if it's offered. It's okay to accept a cold drink or a coffee if it's offered. But again, that's the policy. You don't walk in and tell anybody in the facility, wow, I've been working so hard this morning, I haven't had time to have a bite to eat. Could I get something to eat? Or do you think I could have a cup of coffee? You don't do that. Unprofessional. You should be prepared every day to bring your lunch, bring whatever beverages you need, and if it's convenient for you and the driver said so, you'll make some stops along the way to get a coffee or a cold drink. But again, that's the driver's decision, because the driver has a route to make and he's got to make time, he's got to get his stops done. So the last thing he might want to do is take a lunch break or a coffee break because he has to stay on schedule. So that's why you be prepared by bringing what you think you might need for the day. Very, very important. So now you're in the facility and the chef has directed you to take your merchandise and put it into the freezer. I want you to take care in how you handle this. As you approach any door or as you get into a facility, you might be in very tight spaces. The wrong move, you could damage product, you could damage a shelf, equipment, you could hurt somebody. So move that hand truck around or whatever it is you're working with. It could be a U-boat. Just move carefully. Right? I've seen so many instances where because someone didn't take care, they broke the corner of a tile wall or they hit somebody. So go slowly, go carefully. The last thing you want to do is drop anything in your path. And when you do get to the delivery point where you're taking your product off the hand truck, again, same rules apply when you take it off to when you put it on. Don't ever stack heavy things on top of light things. Make sure you're keeping your proteins separate from your produce. Contamination of product can happen as you take the product off your hand truck and put it in the client's facility. It can happen at that point just as easy to happening on the truck or off the truck. So again, follow the same rules throughout the procedure. After you have put your product away, you might have to go back in and stack up another hand truck and another hand truck. Again, same principles to the entire process apply. Safety as you enter the building, safety in the building, professional behavior in the building, and get your delivery done as quickly as possible as if you weren't even there. That's the process inside the delivery. Now, after you've finished delivering the product and you return to the truck and you're with the driver, obviously equipment goes back on the truck. It's always a good thing, if possible, to start organizing the product for the next stop. And as you're taking product off a pallet and setting it up for one particular stop, be on the lookout for what's coming up. And make sure you have a good understanding of the route day with the driver. Because as you see product lining up for the next stop, you're going to save time if you put that aside so when you get to the next stop, you know exactly where it is. And you do the same thing every stop over and over again. Efficiencies, working smart, doing things once. They save a lot of time during the delivery day. And you want to get everything done, get all your stops done, because the worst thing that can happen is we don't deliver all the product to all of our customers. We have disappointed customers, and then we have the expense of taking the product off the truck and then taking it back out and rescheduling it for delivery. Not a good way to go. We want to get those deliveries out and finished for the day. Now, as you go through the delivery process with the driver and you get done with the day, there are very important steps to take as you complete the day. And when that truck comes back into the yard, we want to make sure the truck is clean. We want to take all of our personal belongings out. We want to make sure that the driver has my cooperation as far as getting all of the paperwork completed. Does he have any questions that I can help him with? Very important. But at the end of the day, we want to deliver that truck in the best possible clean condition so that it can be prepared for the next workday without too much delay. That's the process. So a driver helper is a very important component to the job for our client customers because he or she is going to ensure that the satisfaction to the customers is protected by making sure deliveries get done as quickly as possible, as completely as possible. And basically what's happening here is the helper is taking the burden off of the driver's shoulders alone and really establishing a partnership to get the job done. That's the job. And we have a lot of openings in driver helpers. And I'll tell you something else about driver helpers. These people get to know these client companies that we deliver to as well as anybody. And I've seen driver helpers advance and move on to being CDL drivers, commercial drivers, because A, they know the route process down cold. They go and they get their commercial license, and now they have the knowledge of knowing the proper way to deliver merchandise as well as knowing how to handle a route. They become very valuable in the marketplace to client companies. So being a driver helper is a great entry-level spot to get involved with. and it could really enhance your career going forward and take it into some very exciting directions. But that's really up to you. And that all begins with the attitude you bring to the job. And the most important thing is get your work done, have a smile on your face, take direction, and make sure at the end of the day, we have a satisfied client, both our client and their client. That's a win-win situation. That's what we're looking for. Thank you for listening.